The diamond-encrusted Patek Philippe watch hit the marble floor of Destiny's penthouse office with a sharp crack that echoed through the minimalist space like a gunshot. She didn't even flinch as Kang Jiwon dropped to his knees, the most feared Mafia boss in Seoul, now reduced to a broken man begging at her feet, his Armani suit wrinkling against the cold floor. "Please, Destiny, I'll give you anything. Everything. Just, please." His voice cracked on that last word, raw and desperate in a way she'd never heard from him before. 5 years ago, this same man had thrown her out of his apartment in the rain, called her a charity case, and told her she'd never be worthy of his world. 5 years ago, she'd cried on a subway platform with $23 in her pocket and a shattered heart, wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. Now she was the one holding all the cards, sitting behind a desk that cost more than his monthly income used to be, in an office that overlooked the very neighborhood where he'd once made her feel like dirt beneath his expensive shoes. And Jiwon was about to learn that karma doesn't forget. It just takes its time, accumulating interest like a debt that compounds until the payment is devastating. But he still didn't know the half of it. He didn't know about the empire she'd built from absolutely nothing. He didn't know about the powerful allies she'd made in his world, the connections that ran deeper than his own. And he definitely didn't know that the reason he was losing everything, his territory, his respect, his entire criminal empire crumbling piece by piece, was because of her carefully orchestrated plan that had been years in the making. Before we dive into this story of revenge, power, and unexpected redemption, I want to wish you all an amazing day. Thank you for being here with me. If you love dramatic romance stories with strong black female leads who refuse to stay down, you're in exactly the right place. Now do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our stories. Your support truly means everything to me and helps me continue creating these narratives. Now, let's get into this journey. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. Destiny nervously smoothed down her dress for the third time as she stood outside the private dining room at Bichena, one of Seoul's most exclusive restaurants, where a single meal cost more than her monthly rent. The black dress she wore had been carefully selected from a consignment shop in Itaewon. She'd saved for 2 months to afford it, skipping lunches and walking instead of taking the subway to save every one possible. Even now, standing in the hallway with its crystal chandeliers and marble floors, she felt like an imposter, like someone who'd sneaked past security and would be discovered any moment. Through the frosted glass door, she could hear masculine laughter, the clink of expensive glassware, the casual arrogance of men who'd never worried about money in their entire lives. She took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Kang Jiwon sat at the head of the long table, devastatingly handsome in a black 3-piece suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe combined. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his posture relaxed and commanding as he swirled whiskey in a crystal glass. Surrounding him were 6 of his closest associates, all of them dripping in wealth she couldn't even comprehend. Rolex watches, designer suits, the casual confidence that came from never having to check a price tag. She'd been dating Jiwon for 8 months, But this was the first time he'd invited her to meet his inner circle, the men who ran Seoul's underground with him. She'd thought it meant something, that he was finally ready to make their relationship public and official. She should have known better. "You're late," he said, without looking up from his whiskey. His voice flat and cold, in a way that made her stomach clench with anxiety. "I'm sorry. The subway was delayed because of the subway." One of his friends, Monroe, a stocky man with a cruel smile, laughed loudly enough to make her flinch. "Jiwon, your girl takes the subway." "What? You don't give her cab money?" Heat crawled up Destiny's neck, spreading across her cheeks in a flush she knew was visible against her dark skin. She taught English at a hagwon in Gangnam, made decent money by normal standards, enough to live in a small studio apartment, eat well, even save a little each month. But in this world, among these men, she might as well have been homeless. "Sit," Jiwon said flatly, gesturing to the chair furthest from him at the opposite end of the table, as far away as possible while still being in the same room. Destiny sat, her hands trembling slightly as she placed her second-hand purse on the floor beside her chair. A server appeared immediately, pouring wine into her glass without asking if she wanted any. She recognized the label. It was a bottle that cost more than her monthly salary. The dinner was excruciating from the very first course. Every topic of conversation revolved around money she didn't have. Luxury vacations to places she'd never been. Designer brands she couldn't afford and wouldn't know how to pronounce even if she could. Jiwon barely spoke to her throughout the meal, and when he did acknowledge her existence, it was only to correct her pronunciation of Korean words or to remind her with a sharp look not to embarrass him. The appetizers came, delicate arrangements of seafood that looked more like art than food. The main courses followed, Wagyu beef so tender it melted on the tongue, each bite representing more money than she'd spend on groceries in a week. By the time dessert arrived, an elaborate construction of chocolate and gold leaf that seemed designed more to impress than to eat. Destiny wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never return. "So, Destiny." Monroe leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table in a posture that was deliberately aggressive. His smile was sharp and mean, like a predator playing with prey. "What does your father do?" "I'm always curious about the families behind the women in our circle." Destiny's throat tightened. She took a sip of wine to buy herself time, feeling all eyes on her. He passed away when I was young. Cancer. My mom raised me and my brother alone." "Ah, so no family money then." Monroe's tone made it sound like a character flaw, a personal failing. "And you work as an English teacher at a hagwon, teaching children their ABCs?" The way he said it made her job sound trivial, worthless, something to be ashamed of rather than proud of. "I love teaching," Destiny said, trying to keep her voice steady and confident. "The kids are amazing, and I'm actually studying for my MBA online. I'm hoping to transition into educational consulting or—" "Jiwon," another friend interrupted. A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses named Sang-woo. His voice dripped with disdain as he completely ignored Destiny mid-sentence. "Why are you wasting time with this? You could have anyone. Models, heiresses, actresses begging for your attention." Why a broke English teacher who rides the subway? Destiny's eyes burned with unshed tears. She looked at Jiwon, waiting for him to defend her, to say that she mattered, that she was more than her bank account or her job title or her family background. Waiting for him to show even a shred of the affection he claimed to feel when they were alone together. He drained his whiskey glass in one smooth motion, not even looking at her. Entertainment, he said coldly, casually, as if discussing the weather. She's a distraction, something different. The table erupted in laughter, cruel, mocking laughter that felt like physical blows. Destiny stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor loudly enough to momentarily silence the room. "I need to use the restroom," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. She didn't wait for permission. She just walked out, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other, on making it to the bathroom before she broke down completely. In the ladies' room, all marble and gold fixtures and luxury soaps, she locked herself in a stall and cried silently, her whole body shaken with the effort of keeping quiet. She pressed her hand against her mouth to muffle the sobs, tears streaming down her face and ruining the makeup she'd applied so carefully that evening. She should leave, should walk out of this restaurant and never look back, should block Jiwon's number and forget this humiliating evening ever happened. But she loved him. Stupidly, desperately loved him in a way that defied logic or self-preservation. When she finally emerged from the stall 15 minutes later, her eyes red and swollen despite her best efforts to repair the damage, she fixed her makeup as best she could with shaking hands, dabbed away the mascara streaks, reapplied her lipstick, took deep breaths until her breathing steadied. When she opened the bathroom door, Jiwon was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, his expression annoyed rather than concerned. "You embarrassed me in there," he said without preamble, without asking if she was okay. "I embarrassed you?" Destiny's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. "Jiwon, they treated me like garbage, and you just sat there and let them. You joined in. Because you don't fit." His voice rose too, echoing at the empty hallway. His eyes were hard, cold, nothing like the warm looks he'd given her in private. "Look at you. Look at this dress you're so proud of. I can tell it's secondhand from 3 meters away. Your shoes are worn at the heels. You smell like the subway, like crowds and cheap perfume. Do you know what it's like for me, having my associates see me with someone like you?" Each word was a knife to her heart. "Someone like me?" Her voice broke despite her best efforts. "Poor, struggling, beneath my status." He stepped closer, his expression twisted with disgust that made her take an involuntary step backward. "I thought you'd improve, that being with me would elevate you, that you'd learn how to fit into my world. But you're still the same desperate woman I met 8 months ago, trying to pretend you belong in places you clearly don't. I never pretended to be anything but myself. That's the problem." He pulled out his wallet, Italian leather, of course, and counted out several bills with deliberate slowness. Then he threw them at her feet like she was a beggar on the street. "Take a taxi home. Don't take the subway wearing anything I bought you. It's degrading to have my gifts on public transportation. And don't contact me again. We're done." Jiwon, please. She hated how desperate she sounded, but she couldn't help it. I love you. You were never my girlfriend, Destiny. Not really. You were a temporary amusement, an experiment to see what it was like to be with someone different. He said the word like it tasted bad in his mouth. Now you're boring me, and I'm done with experiments. He walked away without looking back, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor with each step, leaving her standing there with money scattered at her feet like offerings to a beggar. Her heart shattered into pieces she didn't know how to put back together. Destiny didn't remember getting home that night, didn't remember picking up the money with shaking hands, didn't remember the taxi ride back to her tiny studio apartment, didn't remember climbing into bed still wearing the dress she'd been so proud of hours earlier. The next 3 days were a blur of crying and sleeping and calling in sick to work. She couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except replay every moment of that horrible evening and wonder what was wrong with her that she wasn't enough, would never be enough. Her brother Marcus called from Atlanta on day 3. "Dee, Mom's worried. She says you haven't been answering her calls. What's going on?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar. Talk to me." And she did. She told him everything. About Jiwon. About how he'd made her feel special and cherished in private but ashamed in public. About the restaurant. About being thrown away like trash. "I'm going to fly to Korea and kill him," Marcus said flatly. "Don't. He's not worth it." "You're right. He's not. But you are, Dee. You're worth everything. Don't let some rich asshole make you forget that." But she had forgotten. Somewhere in the 8 months with Jiwon, she'd started seeing herself through his eyes. Never quite good enough. Always lacking something. Always falling short. On day 4, something shifted. She woke up angry instead of sad, looked at herself in the mirror, and saw not the woman Jiwon had rejected, but the woman her mother had raised. Strong, intelligent, capable of anything she set her mind to. She stopped crying, stopped mourning, and started plotting. If Jiwon wanted to see what she could become without him, she'd show him, she'd show everyone. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened in thousands of small moments, countless late nights, endless sacrifices that most people would never see or appreciate. Destiny threw herself into work with an intensity that worried her friends. She took on extra classes at the Hagwon, started tutoring on weekends, began teaching business English to corporate clients at premium rates. Every one she earned went into savings or into her online MBA program. She stopped going out, stopped dating, stopped doing anything that didn't directly contribute to her goals. "You're going to burn out," her coworker Sarah warned after finding her in the teacher's lounge at 10 p.m., reviewing case studies for her finance class. "I'm fine." "You're exhausted. When's the last time you slept a full 8 hours? Or went to a movie? Or did anything fun?" "I'll have fun when I'm successful." Sarah sighed. Success doesn't mean anything if you're too tired to enjoy it. But Destiny couldn't stop. Every time she thought about slowing down, she remembered Jiwon's face as he threw money at her feet. Remembered Minho's cruel laughter. Remembered feeling worthless. Never again. She graduated with her MBA in 18 months instead of the usual 2 years. maintaining a 4.0 GPA while working full-time. Then, she started applying for positions at investment firms, using every connection she'd made through her business English clients. The rejections piled up. Too inexperienced, not enough relevant background, not the right fit. She kept applying. And then, at a networking event she'd almost skipped because she was too tired, she met Park Hyun-woo. Hyun-woo was the heir to Park Pharmaceuticals, one of Korea's largest pharmaceutical companies. He was in his early 40s, happily married with 2 kids, and had a reputation for identifying talent that others overlooked. They'd been making small talk over terrible conference coffee when Destiny mentioned an article she'd read about emerging markets in African pharmaceuticals. Most people ignore African markets, Hyun-woo said, interested. Why do you think they're worth attention? Destiny launched into an analysis she'd been developing, talking about population growth, increasing middle class, mobile payment infrastructure, regulatory improvements. She pulled out her phone and showed him the research she'd compiled, the projections she'd built. Hyun-woo listened with growing interest. When she finished, he handed her his business card. Come see me Monday morning. I might have a position for you. That Monday meeting changed her life. Hyun-woo offered her a junior analyst position at Park Pharmaceuticals' investment division. The pay was modest, but the opportunities for learning were enormous. I'm taking a chance on you, Hyun-woo said frankly. You don't have the traditional background, but you have something more important. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. That's rare. I won't let you down. I know you won't. I'm a good judge of character. Over the next 2 years, Destiny proved him right. She worked harder than anyone else in the office, staying late to learn from senior analysts, arriving early to prepare for meetings. She developed expertise in emerging markets, particularly in Africa and Southeast Asia, regions most Korean investors ignored. Her first major win came when she identified a small biotechnology firm in Nigeria that was developing innovative drug delivery systems. She convinced Hyun-woo to invest $2 million. 18 months later, the company was acquired by a multinational corporation. Park Pharmaceuticals' stake was worth $15 million. You just made yourself and me a lot of money, Hyun-woo said, grinning. How does it feel? Like I want to do it again. He laughed. Good, because I'm promoting you, and I want to discuss a partnership opportunity. The partnership was simple. Hyun-woo would provide initial capital and connections. Destiny would provide the analysis and deal sourcing. They'd split profits 60-40 in Hyun-woo's favor for the first 5 years, then 50-50 after that. It was more than fair. It was life-changing. Within a year of forming their partnership, Destiny had made her first $1 million. She bought a small apartment in Gangnam, nothing extravagant, but it was hers, fully paid for. She stood in the empty living room the day she got the keys, looking out at the Seoul skyline, and cried for the first time since leaving Jiwon. But these weren't tears of pain. They were tears of triumph. 5 years after that devastating night at Bichena, Destiny's world was unrecognizable. She stood in her corner office on the 23rd floor of the Monroe investment building. Yes, her building, with her name on it, looking out over Gangnam. The office was decorated in minimalist style, all clean lines and expensive art, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the city where she'd once felt so small. Her assistant Jennifer's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Monroe, your 2 p.m. is here. The China deal? Give me 5 minutes, then send them in." Destiny reviewed the proposal one more time, though she'd already memorized every detail. This deal, a $50 million investment in a Chinese AI startup, would cement her reputation as one of Asia's most successful investors. Not bad for a girl who used to count subway fare. Her phone buzzed, a text from Hyunwoo. "Lunch this week? Soo-young wants to show you pictures from our vacation. Warning, there are approximately 10,000 photos of temples." She smiled. Hyunwoo and his wife Soo-young had become her closest friends, the family she'd built in Seoul. Hyunwoo had believed in her when no one else would, had opened doors that would have remained closed, had treated her like an equal partner even when she was just starting out. "Would love to. Thursday? Perfect. And Destiny? Stop working so hard. You've already won." But had she? Yes, she was wealthy now, successful by any measure. But there was one piece of unfinished business that had been haunting her for months. Kang Jiwon. She'd been systematically destroying his empire for the past year, and he didn't even know it yet. It had started accidentally. One of her potential acquisitions turned out to be a company that supplied weapons to Jiwon's organization. She'd almost passed on the deal, too much risk, too complicated. But then she'd recognized the name of Jiwon's operation in the due diligence documents. She'd bought the company within a week. Then she'd started looking for other businesses connected to Jiwon's world. Found a shipping company that handled his imports, a logistics firm that moved his products, a real estate company that held properties he used for money laundering. One by one, quietly and legally, she'd acquired them all. Each acquisition was perfectly legitimate. She had the money, the expertise, the business justification. But the cumulative effect was devastating to Jiwon's operation. Without his supply chains, he couldn't get product. Without his logistics network, he couldn't move what he had. Without his real estate holdings, he couldn't launder his profits. She was choking off his entire empire, and he'd had no idea it was her until recently. Jennifer buzzed again. "Miss Monroe, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation in the lobby." "What kind of situation?" It's Kang Jiwon. He's demanding to see you. Security is trying to escort him out, but he's refusing to leave. Jennifer paused. "He's crying in the lobby. It's causing a scene." Destiny's hand tightened on her phone. She'd known this moment would come eventually, had even looked forward to it. But now that it was here, she felt nothing but a cold emptiness. "Cancel my 2 p.m. Tell them something came up." "Yes, ma'am." "And Mr. Kang? Let him wait in the lobby for exactly 1 hour, then bring him to conference room C." "Yes, ma'am." Destiny stood and walked to the window, looking down at the street below where luxury cars moved like glittering beetles through Gangnam's traffic. Somewhere down there, in her lobby, Jiwon was waiting. The man who'd once made her feel worthless was now begging for her time. She smiled, but it felt bitter on her lips. Exactly 1 hour later, Destiny entered conference room C. The room was designed to intimidate. Long glass table, leather chairs, walls decorated with articles about her success. Every detail calculated to remind visitors that they were in her territory now. Jiwon stood when she entered, and she barely recognized him. The powerful, arrogant man she remembered was gone. In his place was someone who looked broken. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, falling into his eyes in a way he never would have allowed before. His suit, while still expensive, was wrinkled, the tie loosened. His eyes were red-rimmed and hollow, with dark circles beneath them that spoke of sleepless nights. His hands shook slightly as he stood. Destiny. Her name came out like a prayer. Thank you for seeing me. She sat at the head of the table, crossing her legs in a gesture of casual power. She was wearing a burgundy power suit from a Korean designer, with heels that cost more than that second-hand dress she'd worn 5 years ago. Her hair was styled in elegant braids that had taken 3 hours at Seoul's most expensive salon. Every detail of her appearance was armor. You have 5 minutes. Her voice was cold, businesslike. I need you to stop. Stop what? She examined her manicured nails as if bored by the conversation. You know what? The acquisitions, the buyouts, you're destroying me. She looked up, meeting his eyes with a gaze that gave nothing away. I'm building my portfolio. It's just business. Surely you understand business, Jiwon. It's revenge. He slammed his hand on the glass table hard enough to make it shudder. You're doing this because of what happened between us. What happened between us? She tilted her head, feigning confusion. Remind me. We dated for what, 8 months, 5 years ago? Ancient history? Why would I care about something so insignificant? You said it yourself. I was just entertainment, a distraction. He flinched like she'd slapped him. I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. I know that now. You were honest. She stood, gathering her tablet from the table. You said I was beneath you, that I didn't belong in your world. You were right. She walked toward the door, her heels clicking against the floor. And now you don't belong in mine. We're done here. Wait! He moved quickly, grabbing her arm desperately. Please, just listen to me. She looked down at his hand on her arm, then up at his face with such cold fury that he immediately released her, stumbling backward. Don't touch me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please. His voice broke. I'm losing everything. My territory, my respect. Other organizations are circling like sharks, waiting to tear apart what's left. Rival gangs are moving into neighborhoods I've controlled for a decade. My own men are starting to doubt me. If you don't stop, I'll be dead within a month. They'll kill me, Destiny. Do you understand that? That sounds like a you problem. I'll give you anything. The desperation in his voice was thick, choking. Money, property, connections. Name your price to make this go away. Please, I'm begging you. She turned to face him fully. I have all of that. I don't need your money, Jiwon. I make more in a month than you made in a year, even at your peak. I don't need your property. I own 3 buildings in this neighborhood alone, and I certainly don't need your connections. Mine are better. Then what do you want? His voice rose, cracking with emotion. Tell me what you want, and it's yours. Anything. She studied him for a long moment, watching him fall apart in front of her. This was what she'd wanted, wasn't it? To see him broken, desperate, begging. To have him understand what it felt like to lose everything. So why did she feel so empty? Do you remember what you said to me? She asked quietly. The last night we spoke? He closed his eyes, tears actually streaming down his face. Every word. I've regretted it every day since. I doubt that. You regret losing power. That's different from regretting how you treated me. No. He looked at her, and she saw genuine anguish in his eyes. Destiny, I've thought about you every day for 5 years. I tried to find you, to apologize, but you disappeared. Changed your phone number, moved apartments. It was like you'd vanished from Seoul. I deleted my entire life and started over. That's what you do when someone destroys you. I know. And then last year, I heard about this brilliant investor. This woman taking Seoul by storm. The Black American who was making millions in markets everyone else was ignoring. And I looked her up and... His voice broke completely. It was you. You'd become everything I said you couldn't be. Everything I was too blind and stupid and broken to see you always were. Despite you. Not because of you. I know that. And I'm so sorry. Your apology means nothing to me. She walked toward the door again, done with this conversation. I loved you. She stopped, her hand on the door handle, and laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of having someone worship you. Someone who made you feel powerful and important. Someone you could control. But love? Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't demean. Love doesn't throw money at someone's feet like they're a beggar on the street. I was stupid, arrogant, blinded by my own ego and my father's expectations. You were cruel. She turned to face him one last time. You didn't just break up with me, Jiwon. You tried to break me. You wanted me to believe I was worthless, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention you gave me. You wanted me to know my place. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. If I could take it back. Are you sorry for what you did? Or are you sorry that I survived it? Sorry that instead of staying broken, I built an empire? Sorry that I'm the one with power now? He opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer for that, because they both knew the truth. That's what I thought. She opened the door. Goodbye, Jiwon. If you're loving this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic romance content. Comment below and tell me, should Destiny give him another chance? Or should she finish destroying him? Let's see what happens next. Over the next 2 weeks, Jiwon kept showing up. At her office building every morning, waiting in the lobby until security escorted him out. At the high-end gym where she worked out at 6 a.m., sitting in the parking lot in his car until she arrived. At the cafe in Gangnam where she sometimes met clients, always at a respectful distance but clearly, deliberately present. He never approached her aggressively, never violated her space or made demands. He just appeared, waiting, hoping. This is getting pathetic, Jennifer said as security escorted Jiwon out for the 3rd time that week. Should I file a restraining order? I have a lawyer friend who specializes in this kind of thing. Destiny watched through her office window as Jiwon walked to his car.